Hey, welcome to Mullen Stock. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications by hitting the bell so you never miss any of our uploads. And also remember that this is not a financial advice video. Now let's start. So today I want to give you a good overview of the data points, technicals, what truly happened today. But more specifically, I want to talk on what recently came out from Menzies and why that might be very good for Mullen. So I'm going to go over all that. So today it did close in the green. So second day it was green. So 0.32%. It is down a little bit after hours, but of course after hours on Friday doesn't necessarily mean much because it's just low volume. So anything can happen with a small amount or small transactions. But second day it was very green. So definitely that's a pretty good thing. As far as what shorts did, I'll give you guys a quick overview of that. So today they did increase 935.11k shares. It is unfortunately above 25% now. So 25.04% of the free float is in fact being shorted, which that does work out to be almost 41 million shares. And one thing I just wanted to bring up about the whole threshold list. So today is the 14th consecutive day of it being on there. And like I've mentioned, technically, in theory, anytime a company is on the threshold list over the 13 consecutive days, this is where the clearinghouse is supposed to buy back and cover all those failure to delivers. But this is now the third time Mullen's been on this list, and in excess of 13 days. But there is something I just wanted to share with you. Mullen had small squeezes the first time it was on there. After the 19th consecutive day, it did have a small squeeze the second time Mullen was on the threshold list. It happened on the 17th consecutive day. So potentially, maybe next week there might be a little bit more of a bump up. In both cases, there was no rhyme, no reason, no news whatsoever. So definitely I think that might be late to the game and it might result in something. But I wouldn't hold your breath, of course, but let me know your thoughts on that. And keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. You guys do your own due diligence at the end of the day. Cost to borrow average is 198.76%. Cost to borrow max. Though there was one broker that just shot up from 220 to 388.73%. So definitely pretty good in that regard. And like I said, shorts were able to increase their position because there was no tentative news. There was no news from Mullen, no news from Lawrence, no SEC filings, nothing along those lines. But despite that though, there was some positive stuff that did come out. Like I mentioned in my pre-market video, there was this that came out from the whole Work Truck Week online, and this came out on June the 1st. But under the Transforming the Commercial Electric Vehicle Market, it does show and gives you a little bit more insight of what is happening behind the scenes with Mullen's operations. And unfortunately, we haven't really been aware of much of this. So it does say right here, currently, Mullen has pilot programs ongoing and targeted with British Airways, Unify Aviation LLC, Phoenix Truck Bodies and Equipment, Hub Truck, Fluid Truck, and several universities. British Airways is a very, very big one. So if they can land a pilot project with British Airways, that would open up so many doors. But keeping in line with the whole airline industry and sector, there was this that did come out. So we already know that obviously Menzies had their 60-day pilot program. It did conclude in April, I believe, and they were very happy with it. The only thing that they wanted was a little bit more of an amendment to the whole M1. So they wanted additional windows, more additional seating and things like that, which based on my interpretation and what people have told me, it seems to be very, very easy to do. So in reality that would be huge because I believe it did show on a previous PR that Menzies had around. I think it was 15,000 actual vehicles in their fleet. On a global scale, of course, which isn't realistic to assume that Menzies would get all of them and they'd convert them all. But based on this that recently came out, Chakcha posted this on Twitter. And so this is Philip Going, who is the CEO of Menzies Aviation Group. He did say that we're investing in electric vehicles and ground service equipment in the near-term goal of our global fleet being 25% electric by 2025. So of course, that is very optimistic for obviously Mullen, who technically already has that in potentially. So they've already stated that they were very happy with the whole loop Mullen aspect. So definitely I think that might result in something fairly good. And it's actually good to see some operational updates because it's been a while. So Mullen has done a lot of PR over the last little bit, but unfortunately, I think a lot of this wasn't necessarily that good. It was more just general updates, but nothing substantial, my own opinion of course. So I'm pretty happy with seeing this. I think this is fairly good. And as well with British Airways, I'm not really familiar with the other ones, so let me know your thoughts on that. Maybe those ones are the ones to pay attention to. But I am very excited about the British Airways opportunity, and unfortunately, over the last little bit, I feel like Mullen's operations has kind of taken a side step. A lot of people have been really focusing on Lawrence, me being one of them. But I think based on this week was a very telling sign and indication that things don't go as planned. And I think it's very unfortunate because there was a very big opportunity for us. I personally don't know exactly what is happening behind the scenes. In my own interpretation, I think there is a little bit more of a power struggle. But who knows, hopefully they're able to come to some sort of agreement, and there will be some news coming out, maybe next week or sometime, but again, I wouldn't really hold our breath on that. So when it comes down to the other data points, there was this that did come out. So I'll give you guys a good overview of what happened with shorts today. There was $130,000 in call premiums, $61,000 in puts. So clearly very much oriented towards upside. But majority of this, I'm sure, is very much linked to shorting, and based on this as well. So this shows all the strike prices, expiry dates, and so forth. It has gone down a little bit. So the amount of volume that was getting into Mullen previously, I think that was very much linked to Lawrence. But ever since that kind of didn't pan out for the last 2 weeks, I feel that the number of actual options has just been reducing. So it does maybe look like a lot of people are kind of just flipping options potentially. So once again, let me know your thoughts on that. When it comes down to options, like I always mentioned, whether it be the intraday or just on a broader scale, it is just more of a segment. It doesn't necessarily move the stock price by any means. But as far as big money, there wasn't any big transactions over $100,000 today. So again, that might be a good thing, bad thing. I'll leave it up to you guys to make that determination. This is the secondary market. I'll give you guys a quick overview of, for instance, the dark pool. So dark pool, there was equally no transactions over $100,000. So kind of odd in that regard. But based overall on how Mullen's been acting over the last couple of days, despite the lack of news, I don't know if I'm a little bit bold in saying that it's actually holding pretty good support. So yesterday did have a new 52-week and all-time low, but bounced off of that, and today it held. So definitely that might be a good indication that people are now waiting and seeing Mullen at a pretty good deal. Discounted value, of course, especially looking at stochastic, it is currently at 5. No defined trend right now though, but in theory it is completely oversold, and momentum indicator shows number of retail investors were very much getting in today. So I don't know if they are anticipating news behind the scenes, maybe for next week or some other aspect. Let me know your thoughts, and plus give yourself a shadow as well if you were, for instance, buying today, or if you sold, give yourself a shadow as well. As far as some of the technicals, I'll give you guys a quick overview of what to expect going into next week based on the fib levels. So with it being at 0.7372 after hours, or generally speaking the 0.7469, it's basically right on this S3, but it is technically trading between this S1 and the pivot. So as far as the support and resistance points to really watch for 0.8563 and 0.7340. But if it does break below this 0.7340, then 0.6585 is to be expected. But unless there is some negative news that does come out, I don't see really any justification for it to trend down or lower. But of course, that's just my own interpretation. Who isn't a financial advisor? Guys, that's all we have for you today. What is your opinion about Mullen stock? Get involved and let us know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.